What if the secret to a happier, healthier, even a longer life wasn't, about more money or bigger accomplishments or that endless cycle of self-improvement? What if it was something, well, much more fundamental, maybe surprisingly accessible, but something we often overlook? Turns out decades of solid research point to one really profound answer. Welcome to our deep dive into well-being in connections, nurture your relationships for support and joy. Today, we're really digging into insights from lifespan studies, major health organizations, relationship experts, a whole stack of stuff.
Yeah, and our mission today really is to show why focusing intentionally on your relationships isn't just like a nice thing to do. It's actually a core pillar of your overall well-being, foundational. And we're going to get practical. We'll share actionable, science-backed strategies for, well, everything from handling disagreements better to building genuinely deeper bonds, whether people are nearby or miles away. So get ready for maybe some aha moments that could honestly transform your daily life and your future.
Okay, let's jump right in then. The undeniable power of human connection. And maybe we start with the most compelling research out there, the Harvard study of adult development. I mean, this isn't just some quick survey. It's tracked people for over 85 years. That's incredible. And the conclusion, well, it sends a really clear message about what makes a good life.
It really does. The Harvard study, it gives us this powerful insight.
Yeah.
Consistently, year after year, it shows people with strong, warm social connections. They live longer, they have better mental health, and get this, even slower rates of physical decline as they get older. What's really striking, I think, is how it consistently shows it's not wealth or fame, not even AQ that predicts a good life. It's the quality of your relationships. That's kind of surprising, right? When you think about what society usually tells us is important.
Definitely. And it's not just about having good relationships. There's the flip side too, isn't there? These sort of hidden dangers of disconnection. And we're only now really grasping how serious that is.
Exactly. Loneliness isn't just, feeling a bit alone now and then. The U.S. Surgeon General actually called it an epidemic recently. And what's fascinating and really important to get is the difference between loneliness and just being socially isolated. You can be physically alone, totally fine, maybe enjoying solitude, right? And not feel lonely at all. But you can also feel deeply lonely even when you're surrounded by people, if those connections aren't, well, deep or authentic. So that brings up a big question for all of us. What are the actual, concrete impacts of being lonely long term?
Right, because it sounds like this goes way beyond just feeling a bit down. It seems to hit us on a biological level.
Oh, it does. Loneliness, social isolation, they're pretty toxic for our bodies. They're linked with higher risk of cognitive decline starting earlier, things like dementia, Alzheimer's. The risk goes up. And physically, poor overall health. We see weaker immune function, heart disease, high blood pressure, even obesity linked to it. And of course, significantly higher risks for anxiety and depression. Ultimately, it can even shorten lifespans. The really critical point here is that the emotional pain of chronic loneliness, it can trigger the same stress responses in the brain as physical pain. That leads to chronic inflammation, lower immunity. It's like a full body assault, really.
Wow. So when we talk about what this means for you listening, it's crystal clear. Nurturing your relationships isn't some luxury item on your self-care list. It's a vital, fundamental investment in your physical health and your mental health. It's just as crucial as, say, getting enough sleep or eating well or exercising, a core building block.
Absolutely. And to actually build and nurture those relationships effectively, there are some foundational things we need. We need to understand them, apply them. Things like empathy, acceptance, and clear communication. Maybe let's start with empathy, because that really feels like the cornerstone.
Empathy. Okay. So basically, the ability to understand and share someone else's feelings sounds simple enough, but putting it into practice consistently, well, that can be tough for a lot of us.
It often is, yeah. A key takeaway from decades of relationship research, especially from places like the Gottman Institute, is how central empathy is. It fosters emotional intimacy, satisfaction, deep trust. They often stress this idea, understanding must precede advice, which is huge. It really pushes back against our natural urge to just jump in and fix things, offer solutions. Instead, it's about first fully grasping where someone is emotionally. So the big question is, how do we actually do that? How do we cultivate empathy in our day-to-day lives?
That's the million-dollar question, right? What does it look like practically, beyond just saying, oh, I understand?
It takes real intentional effort. Even when it feels a bit awkward or uncomfortable, it means active listening, like really hearing, not just pausing until you can talk. It means validating emotions, letting someone know their feelings are heard and make sense, even if you don't agree with the situation itself. And it definitely means practicing perspective taking, deliberately trying to see it from their side, put yourself in their shoes. And what's truly amazing here, connecting back to the science, neuroscientific studies, they actually show similar brain activation when you feel your own emotions and when you see that same emotion in someone else. Your brain is literally sort of mirroring their emotional state, which just underlines how deeply wired we are for connection, for shared experience. It's not just a soft skill, it's biological.
That's incredible. Our brain's actually mirroring feelings. So empathy isn't just learned, it's kind of built in. Okay, building on that, another crucial element you mentioned is acceptance.
Yes, acceptance, right at the heart of nurturing any relationship partner, friend, family, is acceptance. It means embracing people for who they actually are, not who you wish they were. Now, let's be clear. This doesn't mean you just accept harmful behavior, not at all. But it does mean approaching differences or things you see as imperfections with empathy, with understanding. When you genuinely accept someone, faults and all, you create this safe, non-judgmental space.
All right.
And that allows the connection to deepen, to really flourish, without that constant pressure to change each other.
And then communication, the lifeline, right? Let's unpack that because effective communication, well, it's definitely a two-way street, but it feels like it's full of hidden traps.
Well, absolutely. One of the first steps is creating a genuinely safe, judgment-free zone where people feel okay expressing thoughts, feelings, without feeling they'll be attacked or ridiculed. Second, practicing that active listening we talked about. Full attention, not interrupting. There's a useful technique, sometimes called the 2-minute rule. One person talks for 2 minutes, the other just listens. Then the listener repeats back what they heard just to confirm they got it right. That's a simple step. It cuts down misunderstandings massively. And third, making the shift to I statements. So instead of saying, you never help out, which is accusatory, try expressing your feeling. I feel overwhelmed when I have to manage all the chores alone. See the difference? It lowers defensiveness, invites empathy.
That I statement advice is just so key, isn't it? It completely reframes it, turns blame into personal expression. It invites understanding, not a fight. But okay, what about the elephant in the room nowadays? Digital communication, texting, emails. It feels like a whole different beast.
It really is.
Yeah.
What's so tricky about, say, text fighting is how easily it blows things up. When we talk face-to-face, research shows body language is huge, like 55% of effective communication, tone of voice, another 38%. Both of those are just gone in text messages.
Yeah.
You lose almost 93% of the context. That just leads to misinterpretations flying everywhere, things escalating super fast. It's like trying to have a really complex, nuanced conversation while blindfolded.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And conflict itself, most of us don't exactly enjoy it, but it's not always bad, right? Our sources actually suggest it can be a sign of a healthy relationship sometimes.
It's true. Conflict isn't fun, usually, but it's absolutely vital for growth, for authenticity in a relationship. Healthy conflict, when managed well, is actually a sign of a strong, thriving connection. It means you care enough to disagree and work through things. And here's something genuinely surprising from the research. Again, the Gottman Institute, folks. They found that about 69%, almost 70% of conflicts in long-term relationships are actually unsolvable. These are often tied to fundamental personality differences or core values that just don't align perfectly, which means only about 31% are truly resolvable, usually the day-to-day stuff like chores or how to spend money. This completely shifts the focus, doesn't it? It highlights that how we manage conflict is way more important than trying to resolve every single disagreement.
That's a massive reframe. Wow, okay, so it's less about avoiding conflict or winning every argument and more about learning how to navigate it constructively. So what are these different healthy ways people handle conflict, these styles?
Right, the Gottmans identify 3 healthy styles. First, there's avoiding. This is basically just sidestepping the trivial stuff. Recognizing that not every little annoyance needs a full-blown discussion and resolution. Sometimes letting it go is healthier. Second, you have volatile discussions. These couples might have passionate, emotional, maybe even loud arguments. But, and this is key, it's balanced out with lots of affection, humor, and a clear underlying respect. They fight big, but they love big too. And third, there's the validating style. Here, partners really prioritize acknowledging each other's point of view, their feelings. They work together respectfully with empathy, even when they disagree strongly. It's more about finding common ground, understanding each other, rather than declaring a winner.
Interesting. So it's not like there's one right way to argue. It's about finding a healthy style that works for the relationship. Okay, let's get really practical then. Strategies for managing conflict well. Because while styles differ, there are definitely some toxic behaviors we need to actively avoid.
Definitely. And these are critical to recognize. You absolutely have to watch out for what the Gottman Institute famously calls the four horsemen of the apocalypse. These are toxic behaviors that really predict relationship breakdown. First up is criticism. This isn't just a complaint about a specific behavior. It's more like an attack on the person's character. You always. Or, you're so lazy. The antidote. Use a gentle startup. Use those I statements we talked about. I feel hurt when. Second horseman, defensiveness. This is when you immediately deny responsibility, make excuses, or play the victim. It's not my fault. Instead, try to own even a small part of it. A simple, you know what, you're right, I did forget. I apologize for bringing up the past. That wasn't helpful. Can diffuse things incredibly fast. Third is stonewalling. This is when someone just shuts down, withdraws emotionally, gives the silent treatment, physically leaves. Don't just walk away. If you're feeling overwhelmed and need a break, say so explicitly. Look, I'm feeling flooded right now. I need 20 minutes to calm down. Can we please talk then? And then, crucially, come back. And the fourth, and maybe the most destructive, is contempt. This is showing outright disrespect. Sarcasm, cynicism, name-calling, eye-rolling, mocking. These behaviors are like poison. They convey disgust and escalate conflict faster than anything. Avoid them at all costs.
Those four horsemen, yeah, those are really critical red flags, things to watch for in ourselves and in our partners. Beyond avoiding those, what else can we do when things get heated, when emotions are running high?
Okay, great question. If you feel yourself or your partner getting emotionally flooded,
Hmm?
that feeling where you can't think straight, agree to take a break. Maybe 20 minutes is enough. Sometimes for bigger issues, it might need to be longer, even up to 24 hours. But here's the critical part. Use that break time to actually calm down physiologically. Go for a walk, listen to calming music, do some deep breathing. Don't use the time to just rehearse your arguments or build your case. The goal is to soothe your nervous system. Also, try to stay curious, even in the middle of a disagreement. Ask open-ended questions. Genuinely try to understand their perspective. Aim for maybe half your communication be questions like, can you tell me more about why that upset you? Or, what are you needing right now?
That's a great point, keeping curiosity alive, even when you disagree, shifting from trying to win to trying to understand.
Exactly. And when things are calm, maybe not right after a fight, but generally, it's super helpful to set some ground rules for disagreements. Things you both agree on beforehand, like no name calling, or we agree to take breaks if needed, or we don't bring up unrelated past issues. Clear boundaries help prevent things from escalating later. And finally, this is huge. Remember to own your part and then actively repair. In most fights, let's be honest, both people usually have some responsibility, even if it's just for how they reacted. Admitting your piece builds so much goodwill and trust. And repairing, that involves things like validating their experience. Okay, I can see why you felt that way. Giving a sincere apology, maybe using gentle touch or even humor to reconnect. It's about showing you're still on the same team, that the relationship is bigger than this specific argument.
That's really practical advice. Okay, moving beyond just conflict, how do we tailor these connection principles to different kinds of relationships, like our friends, our family, maybe even long-distance connections? Let's start with friendship. You mentioned health benefits earlier, which might surprise some people.
Yeah, you might just think friends are for fun, right? But good friends are incredibly good for your health, your whole health. They seriously boost happiness, they lower stress levels significantly, they improve self-confidence, and maybe most importantly, they act as this vital emotional buffer. They help you cope when things get tough, job loss, illness, bereavement, you name it. What's really compelling is the research showing older adults with close friends. They're more likely to live longer, they have lower risks of depression, high blood pressure, even unhealthy weight gain. And it really seems to be about quality over quantity. Having a few close, meaningful friendships is way more impactful than having hundreds of casual acquaintances.
Okay, so quality friendships are vital. How do we actively nurture those in our often very busy lives?
Well, it really boils down to consistent, thoughtful actions. Little things add up. Be genuinely kind. Be a good listener. And that often means not jumping in with advice unless asked. Just listen. Be willing to open up about yourself too, and vulnerability builds closeness. Be trustworthy. Do what you say you'll do. Keep confidences. And crucially, consistently make the effort to spend time together, even if it's just a quick call, a check-in text. Show you're thinking of them. It's like making regular deposits in that relationship bank account.
Makes sense. And what about family bonds? Those can be the most rewarding, but also sometimes the most complex relationships we have. Any specific strategies there?
Yeah, family dynamics can be tricky. Beyond using the active listening and I statements we already covered, a really powerful strategy for families is prioritizing dedicated, undistracted family time. Maybe it's a weekly dinner where phones are strictly put away, or a regular family game night, or maybe a shared weekend activity. The key is that this time is specifically set aside to connect, to share experiences, to really listen to each other, not just, occupying the same space. It's about creating those consistent, intentional moments for genuine connection.
Intentionality seems key. Okay, now for a big one, long-distance relationships, LDRs. For many people, these just sound inherently difficult, like are automatically less satisfying. But our sources suggest something quite different, right? Let's really unpack this. LDRs can apparently be just as satisfying, maybe even more satisfying.
They absolutely can be. It sounds counterintuitive, maybe, but often being long distance forces more intentionality. You tend to have more high quality time together when you do connect. And sometimes, surprisingly, there's less annoyance over little day-to-day quirks, simply because you're both making such a conscious effort during that precious time. Making them work well, though, it usually involves navigating 4 key phases, each needing a slightly different focus.
Okay, 4 phases. What's that very first one? The groundwork, maybe.
Exactly. The first key phase is really about talking openly about your vision for the future. You need to have an honest, maybe even vulnerable conversation about where you both see the relationship going. Even if it's just a rough idea, a potential timeline for when and where you might eventually live in the same place. This gives you both a kind of finish line to aim for, a shared goal, a sense of purpose that makes the distance feel more manageable, less indefinite. And crucially, you have to be prepared for life to throw curveballs. Plans change. Being gracious and flexible with each other when circumstances shift is absolutely vital.
Right, setting that shared direction, that common goal is foundational. Okay, what about phase two? When you actually get to be together in person after being apart, how do you make those visits really count?
Good question. That's key phase 2. While you're physically together. The trick here is to balance the exciting stuff, the memory making, with just normal downtime. Go fast and slow is a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Yes, go out, do fun things, make memories, but also allow yourselves to just chill, relax, be in each other's quiet company. Do boring, everyday things together. That builds intimacy too. And try not to feel pressured to be your best self the entire time. That's exhausting. Give each other permission to be tired or a bit grumpy or just normal. Prioritize self-care even during visits. And importantly, don't avoid conflict just because your time is limited. Actually, difficult conversations are often better had in person. You have the nonverbal cues, the ability for physical comfort. It can make resolving things much easier and safer. Oh, and spend time with mutual friends and family if you can during visits. It strengthens your bond as a couple within your wider social network.
That sounds much more realistic and probably healthier than trying to cram everything into a perfect high-pressure visit.
Okay, so phase 3. The visit's ending, you're facing the separation again. How do you handle that transition?
Yeah, that parting moment can be tough. That's key phase three, when you're about to be apart again. First, allow space for the sadness. Don't just pretend it isn't hard. Acknowledge the feelings, maybe talk about them together. Then confirm your practical plans for staying connected. When's the next scheduled call? The next text check-in? When's the next potential visit? Having concrete plans provides reassurance, something tangible to look forward to. Also, accept that you might cope with the separation differently. One person might need more contact initially, the other might need space. Support each other's needs. And this is a really helpful tip. Right after parting, make a point to connect with other people in your support system, friends, family. It helps ease the immediate sadness and gives you a space to process the visit. Don't just isolate yourself right away. Good advice. Don't isolate.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the final phase, phase four, the long stretches when you are apart. What are the strategies for keeping the connection strong and staying sane during that time?
All right, key phase 4. While you're apart. This is about maintaining things long term. First, absolutely prioritize your own emotional self-care. Do whatever helps you cope with the distance. Watch comforting movies, talk things through with a friend, dive into a hobby. Second, communicate clearly about your communication needs. And be prepared to compromise. How often do you really need to talk? What times work best? Flexibility is key, not rigid rules that cause stress. Third, get creative with shared experiences, even apart. Watch the same movie simultaneously on video call. Cook the same recipe in your respective kitchens. Go for walks at the same time and describe what you see. Aim for at least one meaningful shared activity each week. Fourth, talk about your partner to your other friends and family. It keeps the relationship present in your daily life, makes it feel more real, and you get valuable outside perspectives too. Fifth, try to make peace with the uncertainties. Your partner has a separate life happening. Avoid constant check-ins or needless worry. Focus on trust. Give each other breathing room. And finally, embrace compartmentalization. This sounds maybe clinical, but it's healthy. Pour energy into your work, your hobbies, your local friendships. It reaffirms your own identity outside the relationship, makes your individual life richer, and actually gives you more interesting things to talk about when you do connect with your partner.
That is such a comprehensive and actually really empowering guide for LDRs. It really shows how they can thrive with the right mindset and effort.
Okay, shifting slightly
Yeah.
beyond our closest circle partners, family, best friends, there's also this huge, maybe underestimated power in broader community connections and mentorship too.
Absolutely. That sense of community, of belonging to something larger than just your immediate ties, it's incredibly powerful for well-being. It provides support, connection, a feeling of contributing. It's about finding your tribe, or maybe several tribes, beyond that inner circle.
So how do we as individuals either contribute to making our existing communities more supportive, or how do we find those kinds of environments if we feel we're lacking them? It really starts with personal engagement, I think. In groups you're already part of, look for ways to foster inclusivity. Welcome newcomers. Embrace diverse perspectives. Speak up if things feel exclusionary. Advocate for accessibility. If you're looking for community, seek out groups that seem to actively value diversity and have welcoming practices. Second, actively look for ways to collaborate. Offer your skills, exchange ideas, work together on shared goals, whether it's a neighborhood cleanup or a professional group project. Third, help prioritize mental health within your community. Be open when appropriate about your own stuff. Listen without judgment when others share. Maybe help establish or participate in peer support networks. Even suggesting a well-being challenge among friends can build connection. And finally, actively work to create that sense of belonging for yourself and others. Initiate introductions. Encourage storytelling. Ask people about their background, their experiences. Organize small, informal events like a potluck or a book club. And actively notice and celebrate other people's contributions. Basically, show up, participate, be present.
Showing up seems key. And within that community idea, what about mentorship? You mentioned that specifically. It feels like a really potent form of connection.
Mentoring is incredibly potent, yes. It's so much more than just transferring knowledge, although that's obviously a huge part. It's also about advocacy. Mentors often champion their mentees. It fosters a really deep kind of human connection, and it cultivates stronger commitment to a field, to a community, to personal growth. As a mentee, you get guidance, wisdom, help navigating challenges, and you feel more connected. As a mentor, you give back, you actually solidify your own understanding by teaching it, and you get that immense satisfaction of empowering someone else. It's genuinely a win-win. It strengthens the whole community, really, by building up capable, connected individuals.
Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive, bringing it all together, what's the core message here? It feels like the research across all these different types of relationships across decades, it's telling us that nurturing connections isn't just a one-off task. It's more like tending a garden, a lifelong investment. It needs consistent attention, care, sometimes maybe some difficult pruning even. But it seems like it's arguably the most important skill we can cultivate, paying off in better health, more resilience when life throws punches, and just a deeper sense of fulfillment.
Beautifully put, like tending a garden, exactly. And if we zoom out, connect this to the bigger picture. Strong, healthy relationships. They create this amazing ripple effect. They don't just benefit the individuals involved, they foster a wider sense of community, social cohesion, collective well-being. It genuinely makes the world a slightly better, more connected place, one relationship at a time.
So maybe a final thought for you listening to carry forward from this. What's one small intentional step, just one thing you could take today or this week to nurture a connection that truly matters to you?